Hello, this is Kelly Postiglione Cook, National Clinical Manager with Companion Medical. Today I'd like to walk you through the InPen App setup. This is for the meal therapy mode carb counting. Before starting this training, you're going to need to download the InPen app and go ahead and set up your account with your username and password. You also need to have your insulin therapy settings from your healthcare provider. If you're not sure which meal therapy mode your healthcare provider has prescribed, please check with them prior to setting up your InPen app. Again, this is for the meal therapy mode carb counting. If you're using meal estimation or fixed dose, there is a separate training video for you. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. The supplies that you're going to need to set up your InPen app, of course, you need the device that you've downloaded the InPen app on, Apple or Android device. Your Bluetooth needs to be enabled, and we're going to have to use Wi-Fi or data if you want to practice sending a report. And your InPen. So your InPen box, just double check the label and make sure that it matches the type of insulin that you're using. For example, if it says Lilly InPen, then it would match your Humalog cartridges. If it says Novo Nordisk or Novolog, it's going to match your Novolog, Fiasp, or Aspart cartridges. Just make sure you've got the right model for the type of insulin that you use. And be sure that you've got a new pen needle. Any brand should fit. And you want to have clean hands and a clear area to work. So let's go ahead and get started with the app itself. Okay, now that you've got the InPen app downloaded, let's go ahead and open the app itself. And now we're going to sign in. Okay, and if you've used email, then you're going to get a verification email sent. Okay, so now we are going to go through the steps where you fill in some information about yourself. So based on your account setup, your first and last name should already be listed, but it is important to add your phone number in case we needed to reach you for some reason. And then you want to make sure that you've got a date of birth in here as well, so that when you send reports to your healthcare provider, they know who it's coming from. So make sure you got your date of birth, first and last name, your phone number, and any other pertinent information you think you need to add in here. And then once you've entered all this information, you're going to go to next. And now let's go through the therapy setup. So what this is going to do, we're going to actually put in some of the settings regarding your meal times, the type of insulin you use for long acting, that sort of thing, so that we can make sure that we are reminding you at the appropriate times to take your long acting dose or maybe your mealtime doses. So first, let's choose the meal therapy mode that you're going to use. So as we discussed, this is the carb counting training video. So this is only for folks who have been prescribed carb counting. If you are using meal estimation or fixed dose, this is not the video for you. So don't follow along from this point moving forward. So we're going to choose carb counting here, and then we're going to go to next. And it's going to ask us, be sure that this is what you've been prescribed. Once you select your meal therapy, it can't be changed without contacting your healthcare provider. So we're going to move forward here. And now we've got the dose calculator set up. So we can touch on each one of these topics and enter the number as our healthcare provider is recommended. So for our max calculated dose, let's go to say 15, and then you're going to hit the green checkbox every time to save that recommendation, or excuse me, save that setting. Duration of insulin action, I'm going to make that 4 hours, and then green checkbox. And again, you should have these settings from your healthcare provider. Target blood glucose. So this is what the calculator is always correcting your blood glucose back to if you are above or below target. So let's say 115 is my goal, and I'm going to click the green checkbox. Insulin sensitivity factor, let's make that say 40. And then insulin to carb ratio, I'm going to do, Let's say 1 to 10 looks good, and we're going to hit the check box here. Now, if you do have the time of day settings, let's go ahead and turn that on and we can see what that looks like as well. So if you just toggle that on, it'll turn orange and you'll see there's lots of information here. So it's going to pre-fill everything for you based on what you've already filled out, and then you can go in and touch what you'd like to adjust. So all of this in blue is adjustable. So I can change my start time. So I'm going to change that 6 a.m. Let's make that 7. And click the green check box. Let's make the target blood glucose in the evening. Let's go up to, I don't know, 130 and green check box. And again, you can keep clicking through and making adjustments as needed. And then once you've completed everything, you can move forward and click the next button here. So again, if you're using time of day settings, fill out the basics first and then turn on your time of day settings so that all this information will be pre-filled and you can go in then and just adjust what needs adjusting. Okay, so now we're going to enter the type of long-acting insulin we use. So I touch on insulin type and I'm going to choose, let's see, we'll go with Tresiba and hit the checkbox here. And again, this is based on what you're using. For example, I'm using Tresiba, and let's say I take 1 dose per day. I'm going to click the check box, and I usually take 15 units. And I'm going to do that at 9 a.m. Okay, so now we've got our long-acting insulin in there, how many times per day we take it, the typical dose, and what time of day. So we will go to next. And now let's enter some information about what time we typically eat and what time we go to bed. Okay, so breakfast could be anywhere from, let's see, we'll say 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. So that sounds about right, because you got to take into account your weekends and things like that. So you want to make sure that if you eat a little bit later on Saturday or Sunday that you're taking that into account. Go ahead and hit next here. Earliest lunch, let's say noon. And then next, 2 p.m. looks good here. Next, and then dinner, the earliest that you might eat. And then next to the latest that you might eat. And we'll leave that at 8 o'clock. And next. And now you can review all of those times here. Okay, so let's go ahead and press next. And if at any point you need to pause the video to catch up, please feel free to do that. Or you can watch it through and then do it along with your app the second time if you'd like. And then bedtime. So what time do we usually go to bed? Let's put this at 11:30. And then next. Okay, so now we're actually ready to connect our InPen. So let's go through here and click next. And now we need to dial and dispense the pairing dose. So as you can see on the screen, you're going to dial up the dose and you should see it displayed in the window on the pen itself, okay? Every time you hear a click, that's a ½ unit increment, so just be aware of that. And then once you've dispensed that dose, you're going to press the I dispense the pairing dose button in orange there. Okay, and you may even get a pop-up that prompts you to pair your pen. Since I've practiced this several times, I didn't get that same pop-up. Okay, so now we can name our pen. So I'm going to name this one Work Pen. So you just select what you want here. You can go to custom if you'd like to give it a different name. But just remember that you can pair several pens to the InPen app. So if it's convenient to have one at work, one at home, one in your purse, one at home, you know, mom's house, dad's house, different scenarios like that, you can have multiple pens connected to the InPen app, and it's always going to keep track of the active insulin on board and all that good stuff, regardless of which pen you use, as long as it's connected. So we'll name that Work Pen, and then we're going to go to next. And then it just covers a few scenarios where your last InPen dose may not be recorded in situations typically where the Bluetooth is disabled or you're too far away from the device to actually record the dose. So just be aware of that and make sure that you're keeping track of your last dose if you're not using your actual app to keep track of your active insulin. Okay, so now let's look at how to install the insulin cartridge. So we're going to remove the cartridge holder, then rewind the screw and install the cartridge. So let's move along here, and we'll have some videos to show us how to conduct this as well. So let's remove the cartridge holder. Super simple. It locks into place. It's not quite a screw mechanism. It more locks into place. So just be aware of that. Once you unlock it, you can just slide it right off. Very simple to do. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and press next. And now we're going to rewind the screw. So notice in the video how the user is holding the button on the back or the knob on the back with the thumb and forefinger. So they're not touching the button on the very back of the pen, which can sometimes make the screw harder to twist. So make sure that you're holding the pen similar to that and not holding it against your hand. So again, we can just kind of watch the rewinding there, and you want to make sure that the screw rewinds down into the housing, the little black housing on the pen itself. And then once we've completed that, we're going to go to next. And now we're going to install the cartridge. So the demo video is showing what a Novolog Fiasp or Aspart cartridge might look like. Lily is very similar, but it looks just a little bit differently. But still, you put the cartridge into the cartridge holder and affix it to the pen by sliding the cartridge holder in and locking it into place. Again, it is not a screwing mechanism. It's a lock into place. So you don't have to over tighten it or anything like that. Once it's locked into place, it's staying right where you put it. And you should hear an audible click, or you may even feel that click when it locks into place. So let's go ahead and press next. So now, how do we take an insulin dose using an InPen? It's very similar to what you might have done using traditional insulin pens, but now we're using an app as well. So the first step is going to be calculating the insulin dose, then attaching the needle, priming the InPen, and then dosing the insulin. So let's move through and see how to do that. So again, you'll check your blood glucose, open the dose calculator, you'll enter that blood glucose, enter your grams of carbohydrate, and then you're going to tap save. So now when you actually deliver the dose, you're going to attach your new needle, which again, very similar to traditional insulin pens here, so something you're probably used to doing. Any brand pen needle should fit. And once you've attached that needle, go ahead and press next. Okay. And now let's look at how to prime. So to prime, it's very similar to dispensing a dose. You're going to look at the dose window, dial up to 2 units, and then dispense that 2-unit dose. And the goal of that is to get air out of the end of the needle. You want to make sure that you have insulin right up to the end of that needle, because when you deliver a dose of insulin, if that needle's full of air, a portion of your dose won't be delivered. So you always want to make sure that your needle is new and primed and that you're rotating your sites appropriately. These are all just important things to do in your daily diabetes care. So we recommend a 2-unit prime. Dispense it, and once the window is reading 0, you've completed the prime. You should see a drop of insulin at the end of the needle. If you don't, just repeat that same process. So let's go ahead and hit next. And then actually delivering a dose. So again, you're going to dial the dose up. You should see it displayed in the window. You'll inject and press the button, and you want to leave it in the skin for about 8 seconds to make sure that the entire dose was delivered. So let's watch that just one more time, and of course, to properly dispose of your needle as well. So again, dial up your dose. We've injected, press the button, and then you're going to hold it into the skin. We recommend 8 seconds to make sure the whole dose was delivered, and then properly dispose of your needle and replace your InPen cap. If you need any support during the setup of this InPen app, Or while you're using your app, just be aware that under your settings tab, we do have the InPen technical support team. So you can actually call or email technical support right from your InPen app itself. Okay, and now let's look at how do we actually connect your glucose and CGM, your glucose meter and your CGM. Okay, so within your app, it may have prompted you to pull up your Apple Health settings. So typically, probably screen 2 here is what you're going to see. So you're going to go ahead and open up your Apple Health settings. If you've already been in your app and played around a little bit, you may get this screen 2B here, where it's prompting you to go into your Apple Health settings, where you'd have to go into your profile and then apps and then open your InPen app. So just be aware if you've already been in there doing a little bit of connecting, you may have to go that route. Okay, now it's going to pull up, and this may be white or black depending on your Apple phone settings. You're gonna turn all the categories on, okay? So everything should be green. All right, so we're going to turn everything on the InPen side of things. So Apple Health is kind of our middleman, if you will. It allows us to share data from the InPen app, but it also allows us to pull data into the InPen app. So that's what we're doing here. This is what we're allowing Apple Health to read and write from InPen. So now you're going to go to either your Bluetooth blood glucose meter app or your Dexcom G6 app. And now once you've gotten there, and G5 as well, but you're going to go into your settings and then use Apple Health and turn that on. It may have different verbiage in different blood glucose meter apps. We're just displaying Dexcom, for example, here. But typically it's going to say something like Sync Health, Health, or use Apple Health, something along those lines. And typically it's under the settings tab. So you do want to turn that on. And then similar to what we saw in the InPen app, you want to allow all categories and turn everything green at that point. Additionally, once we move through here, your connected services, you can actually connect to your Dexcom Clarity as well. And I'll show you this on the actual phone screen once we move forward a little bit here. But you do have the option to go under connected services, and this is for Apple and Android users, add service, and then you're going to choose the Dexcom Clarity icon that would be displayed here. Okay, so now we are to the point where we're going to take a quick tour through the app. So let's go through these screens together. All right, so your dose calculator is right at the top of the screen. This is where we're actually going to go to calculate a dose of insulin and where you're going to enter your blood glucose and carbohydrate information. So that's your dose calculator button. Now, once you've used the dose calculator, this is what the entry screen will look like. So you'll enter your blood glucose and your grams of carbohydrate, and you're actually going to get a dose recommendation right up here at the top. Once you've gotten that recommendation, if you'd like to see the math behind it, you can click this arrow here and it'll show you a math breakdown. But if you're just ready to move forward, you can click save and it'll take you to the home screen. So let's go ahead and move forward in our tutorial. Okay, so now looking at the home screen, you're going to see the dose recommendation right up at the top. So that recommended take 4 units is right here. Your current blood glucose value, your active insulin, if you have that enabled, which it does come defaulted on for carb counters. So you should be seeing that unless you've turned it off. And then anything that you've saved in the recommendations would go down here into your daily timeline. Go ahead and move forward. And that actually that recommended dose up at the top will stay there for about 10 minutes or until you deliver the dose. So once you take the dose, that will disappear. Otherwise, it will stay as a banner up there for the next 10 minutes. Okay, let's click our button here. And then again, active insulin is displayed here. After taking the dose, the display will update and it'll disappear. And then you can see the rapid acting dose here on the daily timeline. Let's go ahead and click the button. And then it's important to make sure that the timeline is accurate. So it's only going to display injected doses of insulin. If there's a dose that you did not take, so this is very important, if you were priming out an air bubble or something along those lines, make sure that you touch on that dose and you can actually change it to a prime, okay? And then same thing if something is recorded as a prime and you actually took it as a dose, you can reassign it here as well as in the logbook. So just be aware that you can make an adjustment to the dose if you need to. So while you're practicing, if you have some doses that weren't actually delivered and you want to make sure your active insulin is correct, touch on that rapid acting dose, and then you're going to change it to a prime. And then now on your glucose display, you're going to be able to see all the carbohydrate doses here, or entries, excuse me, insulin doses at the bottom, and it's showing you the active insulin duration if you're wondering what those waves are. And then you've got your glucose values. If you're using CGM, it's going to look continuous like this. And if you are just using a blood glucose meter, you'll have individual points displayed here. If you notice that one is hollow, that means that it was entered within the last 10 minutes and it can be used in the dose calculator. So it's considered a current blood glucose value. And you can toggle this time on this screen. So you can actually tap it and move through 3, 6, 12, or 24 hours of data displayed. So it's, and whatever you choose to display, when you open your app again, it should still have the same display on it. Okay, and so your long-acting dose reminder. So what we just set up, so we did the example of Traceba 15 units. We will see that pop up right on the home screen of your device, and you're actually going to be able to tell it, I want to log 12 units at the usual time, log 12 units now if you're taking the dose later than usual, log a different amount if you had to take a different amount, and then you can snooze it for 30 minutes as well. So that's your long-acting dose reminder. And it's very important to make sure that you are recording that dose every day, because it's going to be used in some of the statistics in your InPen Insight report. And once you've logged your long-acting dose, it's going to display that on the timeline as well. So you've got all that great information from today and yesterday right here on your timeline, on your home screen. Let's go to the blue button. All of your notifications are going to show in this banner area here. So whether you've got a low battery, insulin temperature alert, insulin age, dose reminders, long-acting dose reminders, you're going to see that displayed here. So a low battery alert means that your InPen, it'll typically tell you how many months are left on the battery. So if you're coming up due for a new prescription, because it's going to last you for a full year, you may start getting that low battery alert just to remind you that it's time to get a new InPen. Insulin temperature, if your pen gets to an unsafe temperature for the insulin, it's actually going to give you an alert and say, hey, you know what? This is the temperature that your pen got to, and this is how long it was there. If you're using your insulin for longer than 28 days, you'll get that insulin age alert, letting you know that your cartridge has been in use for longer than the recommended 28 days. So it's probably time to change that out. And then dose reminders for your mealtime reminders and your long-acting reminder that you should see daily as well. So all of that will show up here on your home screen. Let's move forward. Okay, and again, if you have any questions under settings, help and support, we've got our InPen specialists ready for you guys. You can call or email them right from the app itself. So let's go ahead and press done. So again, now we are here on the home screen. And as discussed, you can touch any rapid acting doses. And if you need to change one from a dose to a prime, you can do that. If you don't use the dose calculator, your doses are still going to be recorded and they're still going to show up right here on the home screen. So for example, I just gave a dose here, and if I want to make an adjustment to it, I just touch it and I can say, you know what, I gave this as a prime. So now it's going to remove that from the home screen itself. And again, you can go to the dose calculator. So I'm going to calculate a dose. My blood sugar is 150 and I'm eating 45 grams of carbs. So it's recommending a 4.5 unit dose. Again, if I want to see the math breakdown, I can click that arrow there. If I want to kind of just check out how that breaks down, I can go back to the calculator. Typically, if you don't want to see the math breakdown, you're just going to click save. I've got the banner across the top here. So let me deliver my dose, and whatever you actually dose is what's going to be recorded. So if you deliver something other than the recommendation, you're going to see what you actually delivered. So again, you've got the carbohydrate value displayed here, the blood glucose, as well as the insulin dose. And we've got all that information right here on the home screen. Okay, so we are at the home screen now. Let's hop over and look at this logbook quickly. So your logbook is going to display everything that's happened with your pen over the last 90 days. So you can actually scroll through quite a bit of information here. And then you're going to have your glucose display up here that you're able to see change with every day as well. You'll see average glucose display, total insulin for the day, and then total carbs as well. So again, you'll have 90 days worth of data here. The other thing you'll be able to do is log a manual dose. So if I touch that log dose button, I can actually put in a dose that was maybe delivered from something that wasn't the InPen. So if you still had a disposable pen or something like that and you delivered a dose that you wanted to keep track of, you can enter that dose, the type of insulin it was, and the time that occurred, and you can save that there if you needed to enter something manually. So that way everything is in one spot. So that's your home screen and that's your logbook. And we're going to actually review how to send reports in just a second, but let's hop over to your settings tab here. So under your settings tab, if you ever need to make an adjustment to your insulin settings, that would be under therapy settings here. So you would just touch that and it's going to say, hey, let's make sure you're getting these from your healthcare provider. Inaccurate settings can cause lows. And you can make adjustments, again, touching anything in blue that you need to make an adjustment to. Okay, and again, long-acting dose, reminders, you can make an adjustment to that here, and then your mealtime windows here. So you can just kind of flip through these. And again, touch anything in blue and you can make an adjustment there. I'm gonna go ahead and go back. If you ever need to pair another pen, so if you get a backup InPen and you want to use more than one at a time, you can actually click pair new pen and it'll take you through that pairing process. My InPens will show you what pens you have connected and some information about those. Get InPen is if you want to enter your insurance information to our corporate team and they'll help you get a prescription for a new InPen. These are all of your reminders that you've set up, so you can go in to make some adjustments there. And help and support, like we talked about, you can call or email tech support right from the app. If we touch on help and support, we can go back, we can find the help center on Companion Medical's website. You can go back through an app tutorial, you can view the user guide, all those different things you're able to see right here in your help and support tab. And then sync health data, which is what we talked about earlier with linking to Apple Health for Apple devices, and then connected services for both Apple and Android devices. That's how you're going to connect to Dexcom Clarity. So let's go through that process real quick here. So we would go connected services. I want to add a service. I'm going to choose that Dexcom Clarity. And then this is letting you know what you're giving permission to. So I'm going to click continue. And then from here, if you're a Dexcom user, you would enter your username and password, log in, and then agree to the permissions on their end. Okay, so that's how you link to your Dexcom Clarity account from both Apple and Android devices. Okay, so now let's talk about how to actually send an InPen Insights report. So the way to send a report from your InPen app is you're going to go over to the Reports tab. You touch on that. The next step would be either pulling down on the PDF that's displayed to update it, or you can go here to your settings tab to choose the time frame that you'd like displayed, or even press this refresh button here and it will refresh whichever time frame you had previously selected. So any of those ways, either clicking the settings wheel and choosing a time frame, pulling down on the PDF, or clicking the refresh button here, any of those three things will update the data on your report, which is very important to do before you send it. So if you do choose the settings tab and you want to choose one of these time frames, you would click save. And then from there, you're going to click the share icon and you can actually email, fax, or save the PDF right from your device. And if you need help with this, again, help and support can walk you right through this if your healthcare provider has asked you to send them a report and you're not exactly sure how to do it. We do have a widget that you can add to your home screen if you're an Apple user. So this is pretty cool. If you go to um, your device and you swipe right, it's actually going to pull up all of your widgets. And you can go to the bottom and click edit, and you're going to see a whole list of all the apps that you have. And you can add InPen or Dexcom or your blood glucose meter, and you can then move them up and down the list by touching these three bars and then just sliding them up or down. So if you've got InPen and Dexcom or your BG meter displayed at the top here, you're going to have information that's going to show you what your current active insulin is. You've got a quick link to the blood glucose or the dose calculator. You'll have your blood glucose displayed if it's Dexcom information. And then you've got your today values displayed as well here. So that's all just by swiping right on the home screen of your phone without actually having to unlock the device itself. So just another little helpful hint and a cool thing that we are offering to our users. Now, if you have any issues, as we discussed, please call our help and support line. The number's displayed there, and you can email us at support@companionmedical.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.